Hello and welcome to another episode of Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. So, what am I up to today? Well, today I'm going to take this number 45A Vauxhall Victor that came out in 1958, and you may recognise it if you watched my last video. It's the scrap car that I used as a test for my pink painting skills before I painted the Ford Thunderbird. So having a look at this car, I kind of felt a bit sad for it. It's had so much neglect in its life, and the fact that I painted a pink stripe on it did not add to its value whatsoever. And I'm also going to do a makeover of a sort, really, because there's not a lot you can do with this model. It's the number 48A Meteor sports boat, and it's from the same year, 1958, as the Vauxhall Victor. So I thought it was quite good to include them together. Now, this boat came with a trailer. I don't have a trailer, so I'm going to use one from a number 9D, which came out in 1966, and that's another boat model, and it had a different trailer. So I'm going to modify the trailer, try to make it look like the one that the Meteor sports boat had. Anyway, having a closer look at this Vauxhall Victor, I noticed that all the wheels are cracked. All the wheels and tyres are cracked. It's got those old crimped axles on there. They've probably expanded, or the tyres have shrunk, one or the other, but every one of them is split and needs to be replaced and thrown out. Also on the back there should be a tow hook, but this one has the tow hook broken off. Now luckily I have another base that fits this model, so I'm going to swap the base, throw away the axles and wheels, and try and make something good out of it. See, the base is held on with just the one rivet at the rear, so it should only be not even a minute to pull this one apart. There's no windscreen in this vehicle either, although some of the later ones did come out with green or clear windscreens. They say clear, but it was actually a very pale green. Here's the other part of the makeover today, this Meteor sports boat, and as you can see it's extremely shabby. Looks like it's been dug up from somebody's garden, probably been under the earth for a number of years, judging by the corrosion and heavy pitting on it. Now, it's not going to look $1 million when it's finished, but I'm going to give it my best shot and just make it look presentable to go in the cabinet because I don't have one. And as I said, I've got to make up a trailer for it too, as a display piece. So there was a number of other boats around that came out from Matchbox, and this is one that I actually had as a child. It came out in 1966, so I would have been 4 when it came out, so the truth of the matter is it could have been my brother's, who was a bit older than me, but to my knowledge he wasn't really into Matchbox cars. And this is the trailer that went with that blue plastic and white boat. So this trailer and boat is staying in my collection because it's the best example I've got of it. And I've got another trailer, but it's a super fast one, and I'm not keen on super fasts, and this one's a little bit grotty anyway. So I'm going to cut the wheels off and modify this somehow so it looks similar, as I said before, to the original trailer that came out with that metal Meteor sports boat. Now, whilst I was rummaging around in my box looking for bits and pieces, I found this other later version of a boat. It's the police boat, and I've noticed, well, this came out in 1976, by the way. It's the number 52, and I noticed it's got cast metal horns on the roof, and I recognised those horns from another model that I did, and I did some research, and these were first used, those metal horns were first used in 1964 on the number Major Pack K2 dump truck. Now, I don't have one of those, but I do have the Scammell wrecking truck, which came out around about the same time. Now, the difference in these two models is 12 years. Can you believe it? So Matchbox must have cast millions of those metal horns, and 12 years after they had first cast them, they're thinking, we've got a big box loader here, what are we going to do with them? Oh no, let's put some on this police launch to trek it up a little bit. So that's probably what they did. Anyway, I digress. Back to the model. Just got to drop this base off and go and find that replacement one that I mentioned before. Going to invest in some new drills. In actual fact, I've bought some new center drills on eBay, and I haven't used them before, but somebody made a comment and mentioned them to me, so I thought I'd give them a go. So hopefully they'll be here this week, and maybe next weekend I can test them out for the first time. So that came off easy, and here you can see that this is the earlier version of this model, and it doesn't have the means for supporting an internal windscreen. That's why I know that this came out without a windscreen on it. It's obviously the early ones. Now this is the base that I found, and I thought this was going to be rather cool because without my glasses on I was looking at the base and I actually thought it said something else other than Vauxhall Victor, and I was amazed to see that they were identical. And I thought, this is going to be so cool, I'm going to transfer a different model's base onto this model and everyone's going to go, wow, I've never seen that before. But when I went back and looked at it a second time, I noticed it is actually the Vauxhall Victor base. So that's why it was so similar. Anyway, I thought, well, that's not a bad thing anyway. This one on the left looks like it's been restored already. It's fallen off of a model that somebody's modified by the looks of it. They've made that hole too big, and it looks like they've glued it on or filled it with some plastic putty. I normally use these 2M button-headed screws, and I'm thinking, is that hole too big for me to use this style of attachment that I normally use? And I think I'll get away with it. Time will tell. I'm going to have to get around to that at the end and hope that I can secure the base on so it doesn't fall off. Once again, I hold my breath, take my life in my hands, and using this little barrel Dremel tool, I grind off the end of the axle to get these tyres off, and luckily I didn't damage the tyres. It's quite nerve-wracking, and I'm sure there's a better way of doing it. I've tried a few things, but this one seems to work the best for me. As I get older though, I guess my hands are going to start getting shaky and I won't be able to do this anymore, so I'll have to come up with a solution. Oh, see, that tyre crept out there momentarily, nearly nicked it. No, dodged a bullet there. That's good. That's the hard part done. Should be plain sailing from now on. I did notice, however, this axle's bent, so I stick that on the vise and give it a tap with a hammer, straighten that out. Now I've got to mix up this yellow paint before I strip it. I've got a little remnant on the boot there to use as a guide. And I've got these two Tamiya's, yellow and white, to mix up. Not much left. I'm going to make a shopping list this afternoon, and when I'm next in town I'm intending to buy up some replacement pots of paint because I'm running low. So I started off with the yellow in a pot and I started adding white, and almost instantly I realised that it wasn't going light enough. And the golden rule, of course, is to add dark to light, not light to dark. So I changed tactics and I started off with the white, and then I added the yellow that I'd already mixed into the white to get the shade that I was after, if that makes sense. Interestingly, I don't know why, but I sensed that maybe a little bit of green in here would give it that kind of very slight change of colour. It's not orange, it's not yellow, it's got a tiny sort of difference. I put a couple more drops of the green in there, and I must admit I was cautious at doing it because I felt, I don't know why, it's some kind of intuition. I thought it needed it. and it actually did work. It kind of went very, 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 very pale, sort of yellow-green colour. Probably the camera doesn't do it justice. Like you're probably thinking, why did I put green in there? But it needed it, and it worked. Should be okay, I think. So there's a little reminder if you want to try and duplicate the colour. Those are the ones I used. And this is the second time I'm using those sauce pots. And if you haven't got any, get some. They're fantastic. Don't know why I never thought of it before. Now have a look at this model boat. Isn't it disgusting? However, the top was like a light tan wood look, and the bottom of it was light blue. So I've mixed those colours up and set them aside ready for when the painting happens. Of course, before the painting happens, you have to remember to tap the holes and do all that, because it's easier than doing it after it's painted, because you'll end up chipping the paint and getting fingerprints all over it and nicks and stuff. Many of you have seen this before, no doubt, but maybe some of you today are first-time viewers. So I'm just demonstrating how I use this little tiny thread-cutting tool called a tap, and then using these tiny little screws to put the model back together to try and make it look original. It's not a method of scamming anyone by any means, because anyone who knows what they're looking for would know it's been tampered with. Anyway, that one didn't go in quite deep enough, so I had to redo it. This hole in the middle of the underside of the boat there, I've read somewhere that it was for securing the boat to the boat trailer. So this one's absolutely packed full of dirt. So that's another clue as to where this came from. Definitely think it was been buried. Now, this trailer here is the superfast one. I've nipped the wheels off, and I was going to put an axle through there and some wheels, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Anyway, I paint strip the models, and I give them a clean with a wire brush and a drill, just to try and, especially the boat, I went crazy on that to try and get all that pitting off. Didn't really work, as you'll see. Here's an example of what I'm trying to achieve, something similar looking to that. Now the two trailers are actually quite similar. This one's got a higher back on it and longer mudguards. So I'm thinking, just to get things moving, I'm going to chop those backs off, make them a little bit shorter. And I've got to work out how I'm going to put wheels on this, because I can't put an axle through there because it's a super fast casting. And it won't accept a steel rod running through it. There's not enough metal there to support it. Don't forget to wear safety glasses when you're doing this, especially if that wheel is rotating towards you at the bottom, because it can flick iron filings in your eyes, obviously. So I've had it happen to me, so I do have goggles on at the moment. I'm just cleaning it up there, getting some of the burrs off. But it does need some extra attention, just to dress it a little bit with the flat file there. So I know this is not going to look original. It's solely I'm making a display stand for the boat, really, to go in my cupboard. So it's a display model only. So I'm not too fussed. I just want it to look like something that it will be something I haven't got at the moment. Gave this a quick coat of some undercoat, and you can see some of the detail on here. Not bad for the year. 1958, some of the, like that that Ford Thunderbird the other day, that the casting was abysmal really by comparison, but this is quite crisp. A tiny little bonnet ornament on there. Ford circular, trying to think. Oh yeah, probably got the squiggle name Ford in the middle of it. The boat is not so good. It's rather sick, and it's terminally ill at the moment, and I'm trying to sort of breathe some life into it, and it's not going to be easy. First coat of this yellow lemon paint I put on went on quite rough, and I panicked. So I had to actually sort of saturate it with the second coat to try and level the first coat. And thankfully I dodged a bullet, another bullet. I've got a charmed life, I think. To paint this, there's nowhere to hold it, really. The hole in the bottom's only like 1 millimeter deep, so you can't really stick anything in there. So I came up with the idea of supporting it on a couple of pins stuck into some cardboard and just spray the top like that. Now the reason I'm doing the top first is I figure when I'm done and it's dry, I can turn it over and paint the base, and hopefully there'll be no overspray. So I'm going to show you that now. What I've done is I've modified that little ramp with 4 layers of kitchen towel. So I'm hoping when I lay the boat down, the windscreen section will press into the paper towel and allow the edges of the boat to be sealed to 95% around the edge. So if I spray from the top and not too aggressively around the edge, I'm hoping there will be no overspray. Never done it before, just came up with it and thought it might work. Beautiful sky blue colour. Does seem fairly light though. When I'm putting it on, I was actually anticipating it going on a little bit darker, but it didn't happen. I did give it a second coat. Even a second coat could not disguise the fact that this thing needed to be machined professionally to get it smooth, and I don't have the means all the time to do that, unfortunately. So I'm just running with what I've got. Now the actual problem I'm going to solve, as I said before, this is going to be a display piece in my cabinet. It's not going to be played with or anything, and no one else is going to care. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the ends off of these rivets and glue the heads into the center of these grey plastic wheels. And I know you're thinking, geez, this sounds a bit dodgy, and it is. It's something I would never do and never condone doing. But I just wanted to have, as I said, I'm making a display rest, if you like, for the boat. And I mean, it came out with the trailer when it was new as well, so it'll look a little bit more like the original. Now things are looking up at the moment. I went out and bought some new tweezers, and they're 24 gold tipped. Can you believe it? I never knew they made such a thing. And what's the advantage of having 24 karat gold on the end of your tweezers? I'm not too sure. Anyway, I got them. They were like $50. No, they weren't. No, actually, I think they were like $10. Probably worth 50 though, with the gold and that. So I'm now using the Starbond thin glue and a nozzle. These beautiful, these little proboscis attachments, whatever you call them. It reminds me of an insect's proboscis. I don't know why. Must have been from my biology lessons at school way back in the back of my brain. Anyway, one little drop is all you need with this stuff, and it sticks to the end of the tweezers. No, hopefully, well, no, it didn't stick, it fell. And I must admit that I didn't anticipate that, and this is terribly, terribly fiddly. My fingers aren't really designed for handling small things. So I managed to get it in there. Oh no, it fell out again. This is one of those things that you think is a good idea, and then when you actually try to put it into practice, it's not that good. I got there in the end. I've just stuck them to that bit of double-sided tape there just so that I don't lose them and don't dislodge them whilst they're gluing. Now, I don't have an axle in this trailer, and I don't intend to drill holes in it because, as I said before, it wouldn't work without the addition of more metal. So instead, I'm just using a tiny blob of araldite to glue the wheels onto the trailer. They won't turn, but they won't need to turn because I'm not giving it to my nephew or any child to play with. I'm sticking it in my shelf, on my shelf in my display cabinet, just to say I got one of them. It's not perfect, it's not brand new, it's been modified, but it looks good. Maybe one day I shall get one, and then I can just swap the boat over. I don't want to put a lot on there because I don't want it squeegeeing out and being noticeable by the casual observer. So I just sit it in there on a tiny blob about the size of a match head. And this stuff sets in 5 minutes. It's the Araldite Rapid. It's a great product. I've used it all the time for different things. And after a minute or so, it starts to turn to sort of, well, thicker viscosity, and you can actually move the item around to a degree and then leave it and it will stay there and set. And that's what I've done with those tyres. The masking idea worked quite well. There's very little overspray. However, as I said before, the blue did nothing to hide the imperfections on the hull of this boat. And if anything, it made them look worse. Now I found another boat. It's plastic with an orange base, a different type again by Matchbox, and it looks exactly the same as this metal one. It's just one thing different about it. This one weighs 2 grams. I'm just doing this for a bit of fun, and the metal one weighs 11 times heavier. Incredible. So maybe Matchbox decided to do away with the metal one and make the plastic one because it was costing too much to post them out. Who knows? Now this is my axle reforming system, the Mark 1 version. I'm just showing you how things have evolved. First time I did this, I drilled holes in the top of nails and used those in a drill press to mushroom the end of the axles. So I keep that there as a reminder of my endeavours. And since then I've improved things by using these nail punches. There's the axle reforming system. If you haven't got the nail punches, maybe you could have a go at making your own. Just drill some holes, shallow holes in the top of a couple of nails. As long as they're lined up perfectly, they work just as well as this. Thing is, they do wear out a little bit quicker than these nail punches. Trying to show you it domed over there. You can't see all the iron filings are clinging to it. I'll just brush those off in a second and give you a second look. I tried to, but the camera didn't focus, unfortunately. But you get the idea. Now this is great. Such a simple model. No fiddly bits really. Just put the base on and the job's done. Amazing how as they evolved they had interior seating, opening and closing doors, bonnets that opened, spare tyres in the boot, that kind of thing. So this must have been a really sort of early design. And I do like these earlier ones. Part of their charm is their simplicity. And they just look so cool. Now it's time to add a few details to the model. I'm using silver ink pen. I find that the ink flows a little bit better into the details of the model than ordinary paint does. It's kind of a thinner medium to use, and you should give it a go if you haven't tried it. Anyway, let's have a look at the final reveal. Wasn't a lot to this video, and I tried to make it as interesting as possible by the inclusion of the boat and trailer. But I think you'll agree, regardless of the boat and trailer, I actually didn't need them, because this model really stands out and looks absolutely beautiful in this light lemon coloured, and the touch-ups on the grille and headlights and the two tail lights I did, which some of them came out with the two tail lights coloured in red apparently. So I thought I'd touch them up just to jazz up the back a little bit, and it's great that I happen to have a base with a new tow hook on it, because I'm going to be able to attach this boat and head off to the local lake this afternoon with a 6-pack of beers and a fishing rod. So the boat is not perfect, and I won't pretend it is. However, it's something I had, and I looked at it and I felt that I needed to do something with it, so I did. And although it's not original, the trailer's not original, it looks good, and it will sit in my cupboard until something better crops up. Overall, I'm very pleased with the result. I think the car looks absolutely beautiful. The boat seems a little bit big for the car. I imagine the car's got like a 900cc engine or something. Would struggle to tow the boat, but I don't know for sure. But I love the models. I love them together. I love them. I love all Matchbox. And I hope you do too. So until next time, this is Marty from Marty's Matchbox Makeovers saying thanks for watching and goodbye. Oh, the bloody camera fell again.